Hey y'all, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I am here to bring you kind of the race recap of Waco, Ironman Waco 70.3. That was just over 2 weeks ago, believe it or not. Time flies when you're having fun. And so just wanted to talk through kind of my race experience from the time kind of we left our house to the end of the race. I luckily live very close to Waco, and we love trekking down there. So Waco is a very familiar spot. We've done a couple of races down there, including a couple of the badass half marathons a couple years ago, to Ironman Waco last year, and then Ironman Waco this year. And honestly, it's one of those places that it's a total college town, but what I love is that it's so easy to navigate, and the hospitality is definitely there. And so, kind of once we got the car packed up and headed down to Waco, it was a great ride. We got checked into the hotel. Once we got checked into the hotel, kind of got my bike situated up in the hotel room. We walked down to Ironman Village where we checked in. And once we checked in, did athlete check in, just kind of hung around a little bit, explored all of the different vendors that were in Ironman Village. So everybody from Raw Nutrition to Waco Run Company, Play Try, of course, and then just kind of scoping out where the hair braiding would be on Saturday because my kids love to get their hair braided, even though they're not, racing the race. They love to partake in the festivities. We also checked our kids in because they were doing Iron Kids on Saturday morning, and so it was really nice to just kind of be able to have a little bit of downtime before the craze of the race. Um, that evening, we just ate and hung out near the hotel and relaxed. And then on Saturday morning, we got up and the kids had their Iron Kids 1 mile race, which I used that as my shakeout run. And so ran with the kiddos, which was just so much fun to always watch the kids, get to cross the same finish line and over the bridge that you get to cross a day later. And so it was fantastic. What I will say is Waco was hot. As we know, this race was 11, 10 days earlier than the previous year, something like that. So about a week and a half or 2 weeks earlier than it was in 2023, and so it was a lot warmer. We've just kind of been a lot warmer in general in Texas, and so for that race, it just, the days leading up to it, it just felt hot when you were out in Ironman Village, getting your swag at the Ironman store, whatever it might be. And so it was one of those things where I was like, oh, it's not going to be good. So pushing a lot of electrolytes going into Sunday. Again, Saturday night had a great burger over at Cricket's to kind of prepare for the race. Obviously, I've been carbing up. I think Mary and the kids had gone to Magnolia as I kind of like did tweaks to my bike and got my bike checked in and everything on Saturday. And so they bought me a cupcake, which I, of course, ate, which was fantastic. And just really kind of, hung around in the Ironman Village area slash near our hotel. I will say I forgot my Garmin watch charger, so I was a little frantic. But shout out to Alex Thompson from T3, who let me borrow his watch charger to make sure I was all gassed up for the race. And it was great meeting his wife there as well. And they had a couple of spectators with them as well. So that was really cool. I did get to meet Alex a couple months earlier in Nashville and joined him on a run through the city, which was super great. And so just super fun to kind of reconnect with some folks. And then, kind of got to bed fairly early, obviously, Saturday night. Just really prepped everything, right? Kind of set all my transition stuff out, really looked through it. Like, are we, planned out like exactly what was going to be in my bottles to make sure that I was hitting my carb goals, and just really took the time on Saturday to plan everything out to have a great race. Fast forward to Sunday morning, and I want to say it was 4:30 in the morning, somewhere around there, that I had set my alarm for. Got up. Usually, I would take some time, have a cup of coffee, and I did not. I actually had pre-workout, which is very rare for me on a race day. Usually, I'll just kind of take it a little easier and drink some coffee, but I chose to forego that this time. Really, I wanted to push kind of a little more electrolytes, some EAAs, so essential amino acids, and some intra workout as well. So mix that all in a bottle and really enjoyed that. But I will say it definitely does escalate your heart rate a little quicker. And so I learned my lesson there. It was not a wetsuit, um, kind of. You could choose to wear a wetsuit, but if you chose to wear a wetsuit, you would start after everybody that did not wear a wetsuit. So it was really wetsuit optional, and it being that, really, if you started in a wetsuit, you still only had the same amount of time. You had to hit the same bike and run cutoffs as everybody else. And so I just chose not to wear my wetsuit along with the majority of athletes. This was a sold out race. So, 2 to 3,000 athletes in town and racing. And so majority chose not to wear a wetsuit. I think the water officially race morning was 81.1 degrees, which is pretty normal because the pool that I do swim in is usually somewhere between 79 and 82 degrees year round. And so I felt very comfortable with that. I just did not feel comfortable with the added buoyancy of a wetsuit. Of course, we love to have a little bit extra buoyancy, especially as I already kind of struggle in open water. So, met my colleague, my coworker, in transition, and him and I, along with my family, walked to swim start. And when I got to swim start, I seated myself with Alex Thompson, and honestly, incorrectly seated myself. And so I think we were at like the 40-minute mark, 39, 40-minute mark, which honestly in a pool is where I would be for that distance. But it did not work out that way. Got into the pool, I mean, into the river, the Brazos River, and honestly, the water temperature was fantastic. Had a little bit of a freak out. So you get into the water, you jet out, you make a right hand turn to start heading down river. There's really no current. I mean, the air is pretty stagnant this morning. It's already warm. The year before, I think it was in the 40s. We were all bundled up in sweaters before swim start. Not this year. It was warm. I was already sweating. I mean, it was quite the adventure. That being said, excuse me. That being said, got into the water, had a little bit of a freak out between one, kind of the first, after you turn, you start to see the yellow buoys. So when I got to the first yellow buoy, just really kind of had this freak out moment between that one and the next one of just like, oh my God, like I'm gonna die today. And the swim is just really where I struggle. Mentally, physically, it's not my best leg of the triathlon, and it's just one of those things where not having your wetsuit to protect you from the itty bitties, the creepy crawlies in the in the water, kind of messes with your head, and so kind of had that freak out. I did not put my head in the water once, the whole swim. And, that's definitely a downfall of mine is that I can't bring myself to make that like initial, like put your head in, and do what you do in a pool, because I tend to freak out. However, this was my first half Ironman where I was not able to put my head in the water at all. So once the swim felt forever. I'll be honest. It felt forever. I think it was around 51 minutes. Finally got out. Um, and as I was running into T1, it's a little bit of a trek. It's 0.2-ish miles to your bike. I saw my family and I yelled that that was the worst swim ever. To which my wife also got on camera. And once uh, once I got through that, and onto the bike, my transition times were pretty darn good this go around, pretty quick. I felt great kind of going into the bike, and honestly, the bike was an average of 19.1 miles per hour. Last year we had a ton of headwind. This year we did not. It was warm, and to average kind of this 19.1 miles per hour for the whole bike was fantastic. Honestly, I felt great. People were really doing well on the bike. I thought I will say there was a couple of times when we were coming down the hill after our turnaround in Chilton. You're cooking, you're going 33 miles an hour, kind of flying down these hills, and folks were popping tires left and right. And so I will say changing to tubeless for my own sanity really helped me. And it was a lot of fun. What's great is Alex Thompson and I were kind of like we'd see each other and then we wouldn't, and then we'd pass each other and then we wouldn't see each other. And so kind of the bike was really fun at that moment for me. Got into T2, transition 2, and I felt great. I was pushing my carbs on the bike. I was like, okay, I can do this. It was hot though at this moment in time. It was midday. 95 degrees, 51% humidity. I mean, you felt the heat. And so got into T2, and just kind of like threw all my stuff there, threw my run belt on, put my cap on. I already had my sunglasses, just changed into my shoes, restocked gels, took a sip of water, was running to run out, and they were handing sunscreen out. So sunscreened up really quickly. And I think that transition was a total of around 4.5 minutes, which is just phenomenal. I did carry my bike and so that adds a little bit extra time, but I felt fantastic getting out onto the run. It was one of those things where I honestly started a little too hot. If I'm being honest, I think I was going around 9 or 8 something, 7:45 or 8:30, somewhere around there. I kind of really like started the run, and so I was like, "Ooh, this is a little hot. I'm coming out a little hot." And by the time I got to mile one, or really kind of the first aid station, which they have at every mile, I just started to really slow down. I began to walk some of the hills, and you could see it in every athlete that it was just the heat of the day was really getting to everybody. And so honestly, around mile 5, 6, I have no idea who this other athlete was, but he turned to me as I'm kind of slowly jogging, and he goes, we're going to ultra run this right now. So just walk up this hill with me, you know? And so we hung out with each other for a little bit. And then right around, gosh, I want to say it was mile 9 to 11, somewhere in there. Um, I want to say 9.5 to 10.5 is really where my right calf had cramped up. And when I say cramped up, I mean it was like a ball just below the back of my knee. And I've never felt that pain before. It was something really interesting. At this point, I was walking more, really like kind of walking through every aid station and maybe, 100 yards after or so every aid station. And then I would kind of go back into my jog/run. And I just knew at that point, like, I'm not in great shape. This is pretty brutal. It is, I'm just like dying of sweat. I mean, every aid station is hosing you off, offering ice down your back. I mean, everybody's warm at this point. And what a little bit helped me is honestly somebody ran up behind me and said, "Hey, do you have a YouTube channel?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I do." They're like, "I follow you." And I'm thinking to myself, I literally have like 40 followers. Like, who in the world could be following me in this pool of thousands of athletes? And the chance that they're right behind me. We ended up making the connection that she also knows my coach, Joe Rinaldi, through Project Endure. And honestly, I did not catch her name, and I was kicking myself because I was like, I'm going to tell Joe that I saw you. And I did, pause in the story, but I did tell Joe kind of after the race or the next day. And it's Megan, and Megan ended up finding me on Instagram. And so shout out to you, Megan. I don't know if you know this, but that interaction of you just kind of hanging with me for a bit and us chatting through that run really helped me get through the next couple of miles. And I forever appreciate you. And I think that's the coolest thing. And it's such a small world. And I love being able to kind of make these connections, obviously online with people that are so cool, so like-minded, and then seeing these things play out in the real world. And so I, just kind of kept trekking along. It's hot. You're on the Baylor campus. There's literally no shade. And I get to mile 12. And, those volunteers just past mile 12 were phenomenal. They were like, "You've got this. You're almost there. You've got a mile left. You can do anything for a mile." I mean, they are like hype squad. And really for, almost that whole last mile, if not last point, half a mile or so, the crowds are building and the people are cheering and they are like, "You've got this. You can do this." And honestly, I'm one of those people that just lives off of people's energy that they're giving out. And I was like, "Okay, I got this. I freaking got this." Got onto the, I got to the bridge. And once I made it to the bridge, and really towards the red carpet, I saw my family off to the left. Stopped to give my family hugs and kisses, which my kids don't love because I'm all sweaty, but finally made it through that finish line. And it was a fantastic race day, minus the heat, and I loved every minute of it. Now we are, a week and a half or so out from Ironman Florida, the full distance, um, and I like to say that I'm ready. I am ready. I It's just one of those things that is hard to get your mind right about sometimes when you have mini freakouts or figuring out how to put my head in the water, especially since it's a 2.4 mile swim. So there's just a lot happening over these next couple of weeks. But stay tuned as I continue to give you updates. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. Feel free to ask any questions. I'll chat with you soon.